Hey, is this thing on? Hello? Hit it again. I think it's on now. Welcome to Hiker Trash Radio, where each week, Doc will drag some colorful characters out of the woods to talk trail and Type 2 fun. If you're aspiring hiker trash, or if you're just looking to understand the hiker trash in your life, look no further. So lace up those boots, gnaw on some jerky, and settle into your 20-mile pace as we fire up the podcast from somewhere deep in the backcountry. It's time to embrace the suck.
Welcome back to another week on the trail, dirtbags, hiker trash, and of course, good smelling day hikers. I'm Doc, and this is Hiker Trash Radio. Hey, if you like what we're doing here, help us out. Take just a minute, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you don't like what we're doing, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, let's get to this week's guest, an adventurer from across the pond who took a huge step this past year and hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. Welcome to Hiker Trash Radio, PCT thru hiker Ash O'Brien. How's it going, Ash?
Feeling really good. Yeah, it's really exciting to be here because I'm a massive fan of the podcast. So it's partly the reason why I did the PCT. So it's really surreal and exciting to be here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. And when I say across the pond, where exactly are you calling in from today?
I'm from Belfast, Northern Ireland.
Okay. And, you know, us Americans, we always get our accents confused with, you know, sometimes can't tell if someone's from Ireland or someone's from Wales or someone's from Scotland.
I get Scotland a lot, yeah.
Yeah, South Africa, Australia, kind of. But I think your accent is pretty distinctive. I think I would have said Ireland.
Yeah, I've heard all sorts. Like, I think New Zealand was a common one. Scottish is another common one, but I don't know if it's with Derry Girls, because I met a lot of people that had watched that show, so maybe people are more familiar with the accent now.
I loved Derry Girls. Hilarious.
Oh,
so funny. 3 seasons, right? I enjoyed every minute. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And the funny thing is, like, all the characters to me, they seem like so real. You know, like Uncle Colm, the one that keeps going on and on. It's like everyone here knows someone like that.
Everybody's got an Uncle Colm in their family.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's right. Now, I'm always tickled to talk to somebody who has been a listener of the podcast, has followed along as we have evolved as a podcast. And I'm, you know, when I saw your post or message about being inspired to do the PCT from maybe listening a little bit to the podcast, that just, I mean, that's the purpose of this podcast, of my endeavor here, is to, you know, help inspire people to do things they thought that, you know, maybe they never would have done before. So, how did you find the podcast?
Do you know what? I think I was thinking about this the other day, and I think I just was on Spotify and I searched like long distance hiking or something like that, and it came up, and it was actually the episode where you had gone on the PCT to do trail magic, and that was the first episode I listened to. But at that stage, like, you know, something like the PCT, you know, I always thought something like that's amazing, but I never ever considered it possible for myself. And I think just from listening to other people and realizing, like, a lot of these people are normal people, you know, they're not like machines or like, you know, like, it's normal people. So I kind of got a bit carried away because I would go for, like, you know, walks and stuff, and I knew I wanted to do something, you know. I didn't quite know what sort of hike, you know. I thought, like, at first I had planned, like, it was maybe like 100-mile one, and that was big for me. And then then I was listening to the podcast and I just got really carried away, and I went in for a permit for the PCT. So it's kind of your fault.
All my fault. You blame me to your family and friends that you undertook that huge expedition. And I love that you said, you know, I went for walks. So, I mean, this is just a longer version of a walk, right? It's just, 2,650 miles.
It's just like a lot of shorter sections. Like, yeah, I just kind of had to think about it, to be honest, like that. Because if you start something like the PCT and you're thinking about the end goal. Like you can't even comprehend it at the start. So you're just like, okay, when's the next town? And then, it's kind of like, it wasn't too overwhelming then.
Yeah, it's just like 187 day hikes.
Basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Strung together.
Yeah.
Right. Fantastic. Now, Ash, in all your time out on the PCT, did you pick up a trail name?
I did, yes.
Yep. And what is it?
It sounds cooler than it is, but my trail name was Zippy, and people think, oh, are you really fast? It's like not a cool story at all. So it came from, I was at like around mile 100 or so, and I still don't understand how it happened, but I basically like zipped my hair into my tent in the door. Like I think I was like coming out backwards, so like I just had like my bum like out of the tent, and like everyone else was sitting around like playing cards and having dinner, and after like a good couple of minutes I was like, I'm gonna have to ask for help, and I was like, guys, and then it took like 2 people, and like one guy was saying, I think we're gonna have to cut you out, and like thankfully, I think I would have got the name Baldy Patch if that had happened, but thankfully like one of the girls got me out, and everyone just thought it was really funny, and so I got the trail name Zippy.
Exiting the tent bum first.
I honestly don't know what happened because I was on my way out, but yeah, like it went right over my hair, and I like could not like get it out.
Nice. And thank goodness you didn't have to cut it out. So
yeah, no, yeah.
All right. Well, Zippy, I may refer to you as Zippy throughout the episode. It's got a kind of a flair to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Zippy from Ireland. All right.
Yeah.
So you are a regular listener. You know that we have a segment towards the end of each episode that's called Hiking Hack, where I will turn to you and ask you to share some trail wisdom with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better. So don't be surprised when we get there. Do you have something in mind already? Don't tell me what it is, but I just want to know.
I do. I've got a few things in mind. I was actually thinking about this while on the trail as well, so I've had a long time to think about this.
Wow, she was prepping for the episode out on the trail.
I was honestly like some of your questions, like just like past time, I'd be asking like other hikers, like in front and behind, and I'd be like, "What's your one piece of specific gear that you would bring?"
You could have been my trail correspondent out there. We should have done some segments from the trail. All right. Well, hey, you just referenced a segment. Let's get to it.
Trailblazers Toolkit.
That's right. It's time for the Trailblazers Toolkit, sponsored by the ultralight backpacking gear company 6 Moon Designs. Now, Zippy, I love to talk about gear on the podcast, as you know, and I love to hear about the most important item in my guest's adventure gear. So if you were preparing for your next adventure and I was the one providing you with all your gear, what is the one specific piece of gear you'd insist on being packed? Give me all the specifics on that piece of gear and tell me why you've got to have it out there. And this could be any kind of item. It could be gear. It could be apparel. It could be a luxury item. So, Zippy, what is that item in your toolkit?
Okay, this was hard. I changed my mind so much in this one because I feel like my gear, like I use every single bit of it, and every single bit I'd say I couldn't do without. But I think I have to say, and this is one thing that people told me not to bring, but my down, okay, this is kind of I'm going to cheat. This is kind of 2, but I kind of count it as 1. My down pants and booties, I have to say, and I wouldn't even count them as luxury because I think I would have died without them because it was just so cold in the evenings from day 0. In fact, I've got them here.
Oh, show and tell.
Yeah, but they still haven't been washed yet because I haven't figured out how to wash down stuff, which is terrible. So they're sitting there till I figure it out. But yeah, they're honestly, these are not anything fancy. Like they're just like nature hike ones. Like they weren't very fancy, but I couldn't have done without these. And I am really surprised because I thought, and I never mentioned it because I knew I would have got this as a trail name, but you know, the Michelin Man.
Yes.
Yeah, that was like every night, like that was me because I had like my down coat, like those on, my down socks, and honestly, they are if you're a cold person, like I would sleep in them. If you're a cold person, like just sitting around at night, like I don't know how people do without them. And even the gloves, socks, like I wore them as gloves sometimes. So I have to give it to that because I use them a lot.
You spread that foot smell all over. Feet,
Do
your
you know
hands.
what? Actually, they don't smell that bad, I must say.
No, okay.
Yeah, because some of the stuff, like when I was out there, you know, you kind of get used to like stinking and like everything being disgusting. And like now I look at some of the stuff, like my thermarest used to be yellow and it's just brown now. And honestly, those, they don't really smell too bad, but they definitely need a wash. But yeah, game changer.
Yeah, this may be the first time anybody said down pants and booties as
I wouldn't think about them.
Must bring item.
Yeah, honestly, like people were saying, you know, oh, you'll not need them, but I honestly, like, even on the coldest of the coldest days, I would hike in them. Very, very rarely, but like, yeah, but just more at night and just like, you know, I mean, I had like a 10 Fahrenheit quilt and like those, and I was even like in the first section of the Sierra, like it must have been, I think it was like -5 Celsius inside my tent, and like I was okay, I think just because I had those. So yeah, and it just made it so much more enjoyable. Sorry, I could talk about these for the whole podcast, but like just to see at night, because I would see people, especially like super ultralight. I definitely was not ultralight, but I would see like people just really cold, you know, whereas I could like sit comfortably and just like feel really cozy in them, you know. It was like wearing a sleeping bag.
Wearing a sleeping bag. And you said -5 Celsius. For our Americans out there who are only familiar with the imperial system, that's probably what 20 degrees Fahrenheit?
Yeah, do you know what? I never I got good with miles, but I must say I didn't even try with Fahrenheit. I had my wee like thermometer and it kind of like, you know, it had both on it, so I could kind of get a sense of what it was. Okay,
so if you're wondering what the conversion in there, you just have to Google that. So, all right,
let's go on to very cold.
Very cold. Cold enough to wear your down pants and booties.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the hiking pole.
Hey, it's time for the hiking pole, and that's pole spelled with 2 L's, as you know, like a survey, not like the thing you carry in your hands out there. This is a 7-question survey, Zippy, that's going to help me give you a score on the sanity scale, with 1 being completely insane and 100 being completely sane. Now, there's an automatic 25-point deduction for anybody who's done one of the American long trails, and another 5-point deduction for any regular listener of the podcast. So your total, your top possible score today is 70.
Fair enough. I'll take it.
Now, as you know, this is not rapid fire. It's not like word association. I'm going to ask you 7 questions. I want you to give me your answer and then explain why you gave that answer. That'll help me with my scoring to judge just how crazy you are. Okay. Now, you know, I have several sets of questions. You know, I've got questions for maybe someone who's not been on the podcast before. They're all related to hiking. Someone who has been on, I've got another set of questions related to hiking. And then I have a third set of questions that's related to some of the big issues that the world is facing out there. Do you have a preference?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I'll let you choose.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to pull from my second set of questions about the trail. Those seem to be a big hit, I think. So,
okay.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, question number 1 in the hiking poll: when you're out there and with other people on the trail, what are the top 3 topics of conversation on the trail?
Ooh. Probably, well, do you know what? The most common question, when's the next water source? That is probably like, or how much water are you taking?
Water-related questions, yes.
Yeah. When's the next water? How much water are you taking? That's very common. And also, I think we probably like fantasize about food quite a lot and like, yeah, town sort of activities. And I suppose, I think, what else do we talk about? You just end up talking about the most random things out there, you know? But I'd say probably gear, at least for me, because I turned into such a gear nerd. Like, and I actually didn't realize until I was out there how much of a gear nerd I was, because I was obsessed with watching gear videos. And yeah, like one guy like turned up and he had like this backpack, and I was like, oh, is that the flex capacitor 60 to 75? And like people were looking at me, and I was like, yeah, I'm a gear nerd. Like I could probably list like the grams and the cost of like every item. But yeah, so like gear, because I love asking people, especially if I see if they're from Europe or like the UK or whatever, like I love asking, like, you know, because often like we would have different gear, because like I couldn't really get like Z packs and, you know, like ULA, you know, all those sort of things. So like sometimes we have different gear, or like I want to ask like, how did you get it? Because, you know, so yeah, I'd say gear for the third one.
All right, gear nerd. What was your base weight on the PCT?
Do you know what?
This is not a question on the hiking pole. This is just a corollary, because you've intrigued me with your first answer. So this is kind of a follow-up question.
I mean, it definitely wasn't ultralight, but I did my best. It was around, I think before I started, it was around, would it have been 19 pounds? I think. I do have a lighter pack list somewhere. I should have checked that before coming on here. But then like I spent all this money, like I panicked. The last minute I panicked and I started rebuying some stuff, and like I got it down a little bit. But do you see, honestly, this is almost embarrassing. Once you're out there, at least for me and like my trail family, we were buying ridiculous things like this big banana shirt. I bought that like near Palm Springs or Palmdale. Like early on, I carried this the whole way to Canada.
Hang on. Palm Springs and Palmdale, two very different places. Let me tell you.
It's the one near Acton.
Yeah, that's Palmdale.
Okay, Palmdale. Okay, yes. Yeah,
very different than Palm Springs. If you're not familiar with the area, yeah, very, very different. You might get the bends going between those two places too quickly.
Oh. Okay, well, the one that's near Acton, and then there was times like, you know, we just were carrying some ridiculous things. Like I carried a nail varnish for like hundreds of miles, and like, do you know what I mean? It's funny, like I spent all this money and like stress over, like I went shopping with my scales and was weighing flip-flops. Like, do you know, and then once you're out there, you kind of like, you realize like, you just, I don't know, you just kind of like, actually I've forgotten what the question was. What was the question?
The original question was, what was your base weight? But I love the path that we've taken here. I love this idea about panic buying and shopping with a scale. I can totally see that.
It did. So it did change. Yeah, I changed my tent as well. At about mile 400. So then in my head, the tent was half the way. I changed to track a pole one, and then I was like, ooh, then, you know, maybe I can carry some other stuff. So yeah, I would say I was definitely, I mean, I wasn't super heavy, but like I carried a solar panel as well. So yeah, I wasn't ultralight.
I like that concept of, okay, I switched out my tent, and in my mind, it was like half of the pack weight, and now I've got a lighter one, so now I can carry some more stuff. Is it, again, this is not a question on the hiking pole, just a follow up. Is it better not to know how much your pack weighs? Because I think when you get into that mental space of knowing exactly how much everything weighs, you feel it more. Whereas if you're just ignorant, you don't know, you don't pay attention to it, maybe that's a better situation to be in.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I think knowing the weight of my pack, like at the start, like honestly, I got really obsessed. I think a lot of people do get obsessed. Like, you know, I had the lighter pack list and I was looking at other people's lists, but honestly, like I just know I couldn't do it because I'm just the coldest person. Like I'm in a house, I've got a hot water bottle. Like I'm the coldest person ever. So, and then as well, because I was like filming out there, you know, that's why I had the solar panel. Again, that was another thing people said don't bring, but like that was great for me. I really loved having that. So I had some items that were heavier, the camera, the batteries, you know, the down pants, the down booties, you know. So yeah.
What was the brand of the solar panel for our listeners out there who may be interested in going that route?
Do you know what? It's sitting over here somewhere. It was just from so we have a store called Decathlon, and I know that I've seen you get like 4 class. Because like it's sort of, a lot of their stuff is kind of like budget, but their puffy is really popular, and I saw it was like in the top 10 on the PCT and the what's it called, Halfway Anywhere survey. But yeah, so it was just one of those. It was like probably like around $30 or so, and yeah.
Are we talking about the solar panel being puffy?
Oh, no, I was saying that their puffy jacket is really good and is like, it's quite like affordable. But the solar panel, yeah, it was nothing fancy, but I just clipped it to my bag, and honestly, like I thought people were gonna like, on trail, I thought people would be like, "Oh, you're crazy, what are you doing?" But everyone was like, "Oh, like, is it good?" And then I would lend people at lunch breaks, because I'd be like, especially in the desert, I would plug my power bank in, and do you see, to make a point, because I had so many people on my YouTube channel say, "Don't be bringing it, that's the biggest mistake you'll make." But I would plug my power bank in, and yeah, by lunchtime it'd be full. And then, to make a point, I didn't charge anything until, where was it? I can't remember. Like, yeah, I had opportunities like plug in places, and I was like, I'm just going to see how long I can go. And yeah, that was I loved having that thing.
Fantastic. Taught them a lesson.
Yeah, do you know what? See, honestly, if you weren't filming and editing on trail, like I probably wouldn't bother, and especially if you're doing the Appalachian Trail, lots of tree cover and stuff. But for the desert, it was just perfect.
And you mentioned Halfway Anywhere. We've had Mac from Halfway Anywhere on the podcast a couple of times. He is great to talk to. If you don't know, if you're listening and you're like, well, Halfway Anywhere, what's that about? He is a great resource for all things PCT and CDT. He is staunchly anti-AT. So for our Appalachian Trail folks out there, I apologize, but he is not interested in doing that trail at all. So, all right, hey, let's get back to the hiking pole. Question number 2. Only on question number 2. What is the best trail name you've encountered out there?
Do you know what? That's funny, because I was going to say, I bumped into Desert Jesus, and then I just listened to your like short one with him after, and that kind of reminded me of it. But at the time, I think his name just cracked me up. I briefly, obviously he was going very fast, but at the time I didn't know he was going for the FKT, and he just came up to me and was like, do you have any Luco tape? And I was like, yeah, it's kind of all melted in my trekking pole. And then like he was like, can you sign me in the trail register? As he was like this, and I was like, what's your name? And he's like, Desert Jesus. And I was like, where are you from, Desert Jesus? And then he said, he like called back, and he was like, guess when I started at Canada. And I was like, when? And this now, where were we? We were near not Crater Lake, what's it, Shelter Cove. And he was like, 2 weeks ago. And I was like, what? And then I had literally just woken up from a nap, so I was kind of laughing, like we like polar opposite like styles, but like he was super cool. But yeah, I appreciated his trail name.
Now, Zippy, as you told that story, I've got this mental image of you two kind of like he crosses your path, he's going the opposite direction, and he never slows down. The conversation just keeps getting louder. You're yelling louder and louder to try and cover the distance that he's opening up between the two of you.
That's exactly what it was like. Yeah. Yeah.
And what a name too. He was a great guy to talk to. Incredible accomplishment, hiking the PCT in that short amount of time. And Desert Jesus, what a name.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing that full interview.
Okay. Question number 3, toilet paper, bidet, leaves, snow, or something else?
Do you know what? I tried the wee bidet, the little one you put on a bottle, and I have to say, that is one of the best things ever. I love it. It feels so good. It really does, honestly. It's just so refreshing, and even like, this is going to sound really weird, but like, even if you weren't doing, a poo, like just like doing it, like, just like refreshes you. It kind of feels like sort of you've had a shower,
Okay.
For the day.
All right. Question number 4, breakfast in camp, on trail, or no breakfast?
Well, I take breakfast very seriously. So we would do not only one breakfast, we did breakfast, and then we did second breakfast. So I would have like oats in the morning, which like me and another girl, snake mate I was hiking with, we would in town make up these little bags of like homemade mueslis. So good. So I'd have that in camp, and then around maybe 6 miles in, we would stop for second breakfast, and then have well, it just depends whatever we're having for second breakfast. I love second breakfast. That was like one of the best parts of the day, because sometimes you'd find a really nice spot and we'd sit down and have a good wee break. So yeah, both.
Okay. Now, you know who has first breakfast and second breakfast?
No.
Hobbits.
Oh,
Hobbits.
okay.
Yeah, from Lord of the Rings. They have first breakfast, second
so
breakfast,
cute.
then they've got early lunch, then they have lunch and late lunch, and then early dinner.
That's the way to do it, honestly. Yeah, like we did as well. Like, because we kind of like based our day around. It worked out quite well because they were doing like 20 mile a day. You know, you do like maybe 5-6 miles, have second breakfast, and then another 5-6 miles, have lunch, another 5-6 miles, have second lunch, and then you have dinner when you get to camp. Like, we're not
It's like the
fast
Fellowship of the Ring out there.
I'm basically the opposite of Desert Jesus. I was saying to my mom earlier because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to follow, like how I'm going to go on here because you have all these amazing record holders, and I'm like probably the record holder for the slowest PCT in the world. Like most pumps on the PCT.
The SKT for the PCT.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Question number 5. Do you prefer solo hiking or hiking with a tramley?
Definitely hiking with a tramley. Easy. Yeah, it's so much fun. I just honestly like it's kind of partly why I went out there. Like I really wanted to meet other hikers, and I got so lucky. Like the people I was hiking with, I wasn't expecting so much. Like just to laugh so hard, and like of course you have lots of type 2 fun there, but a lot of it was type 1 fun. And we just we would get into town and like just like go to a brewery and then we treated ourselves like we would stay in places like with hot tubs and just I had an absolute blast. And like what, I can appreciate hiking on my own, but like the past like year I did a hike in Menorca on my own. I did like a bike tour. I've done a few bike tours on my own, and the last one before I decided to do the PCT, I actually was like, I kind of miss people, so I think the PCT was just perfect for that.
Okay. Question number 6. I want you to rank the following in your order of preference. So I'm going to give you three items. I want you to tell me which is your most favorite, what's next, and what's your least favorite. So here we go. 5 mile severe uphill, 5 mile severe downhill, 20 mile road walk.
Oh my goodness. I would, oh dear, flip me. See, no matter what you choose, you're going to feel like I wish I'd chosen the other one once you get started, but I probably would go with the downhill. I'd say 5 mile downhill or the road walk, but we'll go with, okay, I'll go downhill 5 miles, then 20 miles road, and then uphill. Okay, I don't know, they're kind of all, I feel like they're all equally as hard, but we'll go with that.
Go with that. Okay. All right. And question number 7, last question in the poll. I want you to tell me what's on your head out there. Ball cap, floppy hat, straw hat, sun hoodie, no hat, or something else?
So I was, this is a heartbreaking story, but I was given, Scout, like Scout and Frodo.
Yes. Scout.
Yeah, so I actually arrived at their house and tested positive for COVID, and I had to leave. I was devastated, and then he was like, "Do you have a hat?" And I was like, "Yeah," but I was thinking of like maybe getting another one or like a sun hat. And then he came out and he had been given hats by Sunday afternoons. That brand,
yes.
So yes, we got one of those, and I love this hat. I carried it the whole way. I adored it. It was so good. And then I lost it, like either at the monument, or in Canada somewhere, and I was devastated because I'm a big fan of like Scout and his book and stuff, and it was such a nice thing. Like I treasured that hat. I left it in a bar at one point, and I ended up like having to like basically like get someone to like drive it. I like paid them to drive the hat to me, and yeah, I lost it. But that's what I was wearing. I was wearing a sun hoodie as well, but yeah, that hat was great because it had like the big floppy thing at the back.
So you lost it and somebody drove it back out to you, or you never got it back?
I know. No, I lost it once at the Joshua Inn, and then someone drove it to me, but then I didn't see it again after Vancouver, or somewhere between the monument and Vancouver. I can't remember exactly, but it was devastating.
Oh, heartbreaking. And you mentioned Scout's book, Journeys North.
Yes.
Right? What a fantastic memoir.
Yes. So good. It made me, honestly, it made me cry, some of it. And like it's so strange because there's the part where, you know, when, is it Blazer, her brother, like pays for her to stay on? And that's my favorite part in the book. And I was wanting to tell him this, and we were sat round, because I stayed with him before going to the trail. And he got out his book and we all sat around in a circle and he read a section from it. And it was that section. It was my favorite part of the book. And he read it and it was so special. And I was tearing up, and I went to him after and I was like, this is so strange because I was going to tell you tonight my favorite part of the book and you just read it. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that book. That was another inspiration for the PCT.
I hope that wasn't your adventure media that you're going to share a little bit later, but definitely, if you have not read Journeys North by Barney Scoutman, check that out. It is a fantastic depiction of life on the trail, and it's not just from his perspective. He does an incredible job of, after he was done with his hike and during the hike, he talked to a lot of people that were around him, and he writes from their perspective as well, which is so good.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, sit back just for a second because I have to do some math. Got to use all 20 digits here. I've got to, let's see, I got to carry the 2. I've got to divide by pi. I'm going to multiply by root 5. And I'm going to make a slight adjustment for the magnitude of your pre-hike panic buying. And I come up with a score of 53.
Okay. More sane than insane. That's okay.
Slightly more sane. Yeah. Now, you have to be careful because that score can always adjust downward or upward as we continue the interview.
Uh-oh.
All right. Hey, Ash, before we get too far down the trail, let's back up just a little bit and tell us about your background and growing up, and how did this idea of hiking the PCT capture your imagination? When did you first realize that this might be something you wanted to do?
Well, I suppose to go back to like how I got into the outdoors, like I was trying to figure this out the other day and I kept going back and back and I realized, you know where it stems from? This is kind of like crazy, but do you remember Steve Irwin?
Yes.
I loved Steve Irwin growing up when I must have been about 8 or 9, and my first fancy dress in like primary school, I dressed up as Steve Irwin. I like rubber snakes and everything, and like that really, like, he inspired me to be outdoors. And when we got our first, you're not going to believe this, I don't even believe this story sometimes. I'm like, Mom, did you just make this up that this happened? But when we got our first computer, I emailed Australia Zoo. And I was like, I'm such a big fan. I named my goldfish after you and all. And believe it or not, Steve Irwin sent me mail to the house. He sent like autographed postcards. I actually tried to find them. I couldn't find them. They're around somewhere. But autographed postcards from him and Terry Irwin, and like maps of the zoo. And honestly, like I still can hardly believe it to this day, like that happened. And that was like, I just was like, wow, like I'm still so excited about it, you know, and I was like 10 then. So like that is what inspired me to be outdoors. And then growing up, like kind of adventure is always like called to me. And I was generally like, I was into all these different sports, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I wasn't really, there was nothing like sticking. I just do a wee bit, you know, do trampolining for a couple of years, dance, you know, all these different things. And then, then do you know what Duke of Edinburgh is? Duke of Edinburgh? Yeah.
The person?
Well, there's a Duke of Edinburgh scheme, you call it. Like, do you know what that is?
No.
So basically,
I don't think so.
So that's a scheme that is like, it's really popular in the UK, and basically what it is like, it starts when you're about 14, and there's bronze, silver and gold, and you do it over like many years. And the main part of that is an expedition. And
is this similar to like Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts?
It might be, but I'm not really too sure, because it's sort of like, you have to do like a skill, you have to do a physical thing, you have to do some volunteering, and then you do this expedition. And so you have to learn like navigational skills.
Yes.
So for me, like
very similar. Yes.
Really cool. So when I went to secondary school and I heard about it, I was like, oh, so you're saying that the teachers are going to drop me in the middle of the mountains and then I can like spend 3 days in the mountains? And I thought this was the coolest thing I had ever heard of. So like I signed up for that as soon as I could. And yeah, like spent 2 days on bronze hiking, and that blew my mind because I'd never walked so far in my life. And then I did silver. I must have been maybe like, I was 14 when I started it. Did silver, did gold then when I was about 18. And then I kind of like, I forgot about hiking for a while. And then, yeah, years later, I was like traveling and stuff. And me and my friend, we were in Thailand. This is kind of hilarious, but we just like on a whim signed up to do this like multi-day trail. It was guided up in like the north of Thailand and Chiang Mai. And we were so unprepared. Like she was wearing like sandals, like not even hiking sandals. I was wearing like basically Converse. And we turned up, we didn't even have backpacks. We turned up with plastic bags to do this trail, which is so, every time I think about it, and we did it. And we were like, that was so cool. And then, yeah, like a few years after that, then we decided it was, you'll hear me mention my friend Rachel probably a lot. She was like a big part of the kind of our exploration of like doing these like trails. So then we, yeah, she said, why don't we do a hiking holiday? And I was like, I never thought of that. And then we were like brainstorming, and like we came up with the Tour de Mont Blanc, which is basically like hiking around Mont Blanc through, you start in France, then you go Italy, Switzerland, back to France. And yeah, we were so unprepared. Like I actually met up with her yesterday because we just, every time we reminisce about these trips, we just end up laughing because, you know, usually like you see people who are like unprepared for hiking, they usually carry too much stuff. We were the opposite. We turned up with like little tiny 20-liter backpacks. Like our rainproofs were like 2 for £1 festival ponchos. We were like, sure, that'll be grand. And you know, we hadn't got anything booked. We just had the flights, and we basically just turned up. And like, you know, yeah, our gear was like the most, honestly, it was the most basic gear. But do you know what? We made it. We made it the whole way around it. And, you know, I think some people were laughing at us, you know, they're like, oh, there's the 2 girls in the red hats. You know, we were wearing like pink shorts and like just being really unprepared. But like we did the miles, like we planned it in 11 days, but because we hadn't anything booked, we would get them out in refuges and they'd be full. And we ended up having to open up the guidebook to do the next day. And we were like doing 2 days in one. And that, there was a lot of type 2 fun in that because that was brutal, but amazing. And then, yeah, from there, we were hooked. Every single trip we did after that was basically like, what hike can we do? We did Everest Base Camp like 6 months later. And then, yeah, we did Kilimanjaro together. And then we did the Wachi World Heritage Trail, which basically ended up being, it was like, if you like wine, you're basically hiking through vineyards for 8 days. And it was so good.
Perfect. Hey, Ash, you are totally surprising me here, because when we scheduled this talk, I thought I was just talking to a PCT hiker who had listened to the podcast a little bit. But now I come to find out that you've done Tour de Mont Blanc, you've done Everest Base Camp, Kilimanjaro, hiking through vineyards. I mean, you're pretty seasoned.
I've done a few.
Yeah. Does Rachel also listen to the podcast?
Do you know what? I'm not sure, to be honest, but I don't even know if she listens to the podcast much, but I'm going to tell her to.
Okay. Thank you. One more listener for me. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, before we go to break, tell us what you do to pay the bills and finance your adventures.
Well, I'm an animator, so I'm working on the wee show Peppa Pig at the minute, which is like really different than the hiking world, but I absolutely love it.
You able to work from home, or do you go into an office?
I'm working from home at the minute because it's the studio's in London. So yeah, I miss being in the studio. I'm contemplating moving over to London. I don't know, but yeah, I'm working remote at the minute.
And so, as an animator for Peppa Pig, what does that entail? What do you have to do?
Well, I basically will get like storyboard scripts, and then I bring the characters to life, and the characters are kind of like puppets basically, and yeah, we move them and make them act. So we're basically like actors that putting it through another character.
Okay. All right. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from the advertisers, pay some bills, and when we come back, we're going to get to the PCT hike, and we're going to find out from you how long it exactly took and what kinds of type 2 fun you went through. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We were talking to Ash O'Brien, aka Zippy. And we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of territory in that first segment. We learned a lot about Ash, and I'm fascinated now to hear about your PCT hike. One of the things you did not answer, I mean, you talked about how you got involved with the outdoors, but when did you first learn about these things called long trails, where these are walking paths where you could walk thousands of miles? And when did you decide, you know what, I'm going to do the PCT?
Well, do you know what? I think so. My friend gave me the audiobook of Walk in the Woods, Bill Bryson.
Yes, Bill Bryson.
That was the first time I'd heard. But like I said earlier, I had never considered that it would be possible for me to do. And basically, like, I'm going to try and summarize a big, terrible part of my life in a nutshell, because it's a bit of a long, depressing story. But like, I eventually went to Australia to work a good few years ago and ended up getting really, really, really unwell from a mosquito virus, and it basically ruined my life for a couple of years. And I couldn't, the worst of times I couldn't even leave the house. Even just walking 5 minutes, I would be bedbound after. And I kind of I wasn't able to hike. I wasn't able to do everything that I love. And I had people telling me to get different hobbies, which of course I was like, you don't understand. And I just was never going to accept it. So I started from the bottom. For the PCT, some people, that I saw me on trial would be like, so how did you train? I'd be like, my training started walking around the garden. I kind of literally started from the bottom. At the time I hadn't thought about doing the PCT, but I knew I wanted to do something. I needed to do something big, and because the trauma from that whole experience, it absolutely it kind of destroyed me, and I find it really hard to get over that. So I did a hike in Menorca, hiking the circumference. I did that on my own, and that was kind of trying to physically I still wasn't really in a good place. I still physically wasn't in a great place when I applied for my permit for the PCT, but basically I did that, and I was able to shed some of the trauma that had come with those few years, but it still wasn't enough. And I knew I needed to do something really, really, really big. And I was looking at doing the Ireland Way, and then I was listening to your podcast and I'd also read Journeys North, and then I think actually I was going to do the Appalachian Trail, and then I just hearing about the PCT, I was I just knew that I had to do it. It was and even this year, obviously this year has been a very difficult year for the PCT, and I considered maybe I shouldn't do it this year. I just couldn't. I had to do it. It was I had a meltdown. I was I'm not going to do it, and then that night I booked my flights. I was I'm doing it, because I just had to do it. And it ended up being everything I needed to trust my body again. So yeah, sorry, it's a bit of a long story really to talk about that, but it was a big part of my mental recovery and physical recovery as well, because now I feel I can do anything.
Yeah, no, don't apologize. That is great stuff. And I've got a lot of follow-up questions and points, a lot to unpack right here. First is this whole concept of starting from the bottom. As you know, you're a regular listener, so I try and be on the lookout for a trail name for the episode. And I think we've just stumbled across it. Starting from the bottom. Because that kind of sums up, where you were physically and mentally, right? And picking yourself up and moving forward. and making progress. Also, that kind of describes your northbound PCT hike, right? You starting from the bottom of the U.S. and hiking the entire height of it. So I think it's a very cool representative title. I think it's really summed it up very nicely. And also, I think not only from these comments that you just made, but also some of your previous comments, I mean, it just goes to show that you don't have to be in the best place physically. You don't have to have the best gear out there. I think that we all are kind of stuck in a state of inertia. You know, it's easy just to do what you've always done, stick in your normal patterns, and it is a challenge. It is a big step to say, you know what, I'm not going to wait for the best gear. I'm not going to wait until I'm in marathon shape. I'm gonna pick up the phone, or I'm gonna open up my computer. I'm gonna book those flights, and I'm gonna do it. And breaking out of that inertia of our everyday lives. I think that's also a good storyline as well.
Yeah.
And then finally, I didn't ask you a question. I'm just talking right now. Sorry. And next is when I had Barney Scout Man on the podcast, he said that one of his greatest joys as an author was walking through an airport and seeing somebody reading his book, and how cool that was. And I remember telling him at that point that, my goal is to have somebody run into somebody who recognizes me or, has listened to the podcast. And you kind of tie all that together, because not only did you meet Barney Scout Man, and not only have you read his book, but you've also listened to the podcast. So it kind of like ties that all up in a nice big bow for us.
Yeah.
So again, no question there. I'm just rambling on. What did you say? I'm waffling a bit. So
I do a lot of waffling.
Now, what did your parents think when you told them you're going to do the PCT?
I mean, yeah, I don't think anything surprises them. Like my mom says, like, if you told me you were going to go to the moon, I'd believe you. But I think they were worried, they're like, oh, bears, like, and I think, yeah, my mom was a bit concerned, because she's like, you've only just sort of got yourself like healthy again, you could ruin it all like doing this. But yeah, they were worried, but they were really, really supportive, like they always are, of my like crazy ideas.
Any big animals in Ireland? Any bears out there?
No. Oh, we don't even have snakes. We've got sheep. Yeah, we've just got lots of sheep, really. Nothing scary.
That's right. Who was it? St. George that cast out the snakes?
St.
Was it St. Patrick?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought he was just the lucky guy.
No, he got rid of our snakes, sent them all to England. And over to you guys.
Yeah, that's right. We've got them all over here. And Australia. Australia has, talk about things that can kill you. Australia, I think, has quite a number of those.
Do you know what? I lived in Australia for like over a year. I have to say, I have never seen so many snakes as the one day coming out of Scissors Crossing. Oh my goodness me. It was rattlesnakes left, right, and center. I was a nervous wreck.
And they've got huge spiders down there as well.
I didn't see many spiders, but wait, are you talking about in
Australia?
Oh yeah. I saw spiders there, but yeah, I saw people who were like seeing tarantulas on the PCT. Like, thank goodness I didn't see anything, because that's one of my biggest fears is spiders.
Yeah, I saw a tarantula a couple of weeks ago crawling across our street as I was walking the dog. And I told Mrs. Doc, and she hasn't slept since. So.
Oh my goodness. I did see scorpions, though. They're cool.
You did or did not see scorpions?
I did, yeah, I did. And it was funny enough, I was like cowboy camping outside someone I met on the PCT, like, because I went back to San Diego, and yeah, I was like sleeping outside, and then woke up with like a scorpion like just there, and I was like,
Right. So any siblings, Zippy?
Yeah, I've got one brother. He lives in London.
Is he also a PCT thru hiker?
No, not at all. No, no one in my family are really into hiking. My family, they love traveling and stuff, but there's no one, to be honest, that's really into hiking.
Okay. So we kind of heard a little bit about you doing your research, not knowing if you'll be able to do it or not, and then just taking the plunge and buying those plane tickets. Tell me about what kind of preparation you did before. What did you do physically to get yourself ready for the PCT?
Well, like I said, it was starting from the bottom for me. So, yeah, I kind of just was like pacing, like walks, like, because I had to be really careful at the time, because like I was saying, I could do a 5-minute walk and then be really unwell for days. So like, it's kind of like where it started for me, and I'd get further and further. And then I kind of started training to be uncomfortable. Like because I'm always cold. I like to be warm. So I was like, I'm not allowed to use my hot water bottle, because like I sit and work, I get really cold, and then I'm like sitting with a hot water bottle. So, and then I was going out of my way to hike in the rain, which is not hard in Northern Ireland because it's raining all the time. And yeah, camping when it was really cold. So yeah, my physical preparation was basically like doing strength work at the gym, really helped, and just lots of hiking. And I used to like put bricks in my backpack and go out, and that was the physical preparation. There was a lot of like the other preparation basically dominated every second of my life before I left, was researching gear, like making spreadsheets, like trying to figure out resupplies and all that sort of stuff.
I love that idea of training to be uncomfortable, because that's a thing, right? I mean, you're going to be uncomfortable out there. And if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable, I think that might account for someone saying, this just isn't for me. I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah, you're pretty much always uncomfortable. It's like it's too hot, it's too cold, you just, yeah, but you do get used to it. And I must say, when you come back, like everything seems easy after you do that, because I won't complain about anything now, because even, yeah, like nothing feels hard. Even things that would have felt hard, like doing all your meal prepping on a Sunday, like nothing. Once you've packed boxes for Washington for 30 days worth of food, on a zero, like nothing will seem hard.
Yeah. So did you ship your boxes ahead of time? And how many did you ship? Or did you just plan on doing some excursions into town?
I did a wee bit of both. So like for the first 700 miles, I actually sent most boxes like from San Diego, just because I kind of like, I wanted to eat as healthily as I could on trail. So I wanted to have stuff that I wanted, really. And then, yeah, I did a few in Oregon. And then I basically, did the whole of Washington. But yeah, in between that, there was a lot of time. So we liked our times.
Now, you mentioned earlier that trying to envision or understand the gigantic feat in front of you going, 2,600 miles, it's tough to comprehend when you're at the very beginning. And so what were you expecting as you set foot on the trail for that first day?
I don't really know what I was thinking, to be honest. It was very emotional, because honestly, like I was, after everything like I'd gone through, just to be there, and I say this to everyone, like you should just be so proud of yourself just getting to the southern terminus, especially if you're like international, because it's such an epic feat just to get there with the visas, permits. And honestly, like if you do like even 100 miles, I just think everyone should be so proud of themselves, because it's such a scary thing, especially because most people go on their own. It is a scary thing, but I think for me, I was just so, because I had COVID at the start, the plane lost my luggage and everything. And like, that's another start from the bottom. That was me. Yeah. Like I got off and the lady was like, well, you might want to consider buying new gear. And I started saying, I've been buying this gear for the past year, like, and I had an air tag on my luggage, and I was like, it's here, like, I know where it is, like, it was left at the other airport, but yeah, then, yeah, I was in a hotel room for like 5 days. I missed my start date because I was pretty unwell with COVID then, and so just to get there, I was like, yes, like just I've been let out of my cave. Like I was just so damn excited. And I just was thinking, what's going to happen between now at this monument and being at the the end. And it was honestly, it was one of the best days of my life, was going to that terminus. And like me and like a few people, like, because we got to Cleef, we stayed there, and then on the night, because we were all going to go in the morning, start up properly, and we were like, ooh, should we sneak up tonight? And we like snuck up, and it was like the sun was setting, there was like no one there, it was really, really calm. And so we went to the monument twice, because we did go the next morning, but that evening was just so special. And I did it with a few people who actually I walked most of the trail with, really, really good friends. And it was just a really special moment. It was really exciting.
Fantastic. And what a way to start. I mean, having COVID and then having potentially lost your luggage. And we talked about your panic buying and all of the stuff that led up to, you know, acquiring all of your gear. I can't imagine getting there to that moment and being ready to start, and you've got to go through that whole process again of replenishing your gear.
It was very
stressful. Thank goodness that you were able to find that, and nice foresight to have an air tag on your luggage.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that we don't talk an awful lot about, and I know I've got a couple of listeners who have asked me this question, is what is the cost of a PCT through hike? So you've got all of your initial outlay in terms of your gear, but actually time on trail. I mean, how much money did you budget to have on trail the trip?
It's a good question. And I researched this a bit before going, and I saw like there was a really good, someone did a breakdown of last year, like everything. It was on the Trek somewhere, but I think for me, like I way over budgeted, and I was glad I did, because it is, I mean, I find it quite expensive, to be honest, in like towns and stuff, just for like simple things, like, you know, a bag of chips were really expensive. But what did I don't even know really what I think it was about £10,000, which must be about, I don't know, a bit over in dollars. I'm not really sure, to be honest, but that's kind of what I budgeted, because I knew I wanted to not think too much about budget. Like if I wanted to stay in a place as like, you know, a hot tub with my friends and like go out for pizza and go out for beers. So I would say like I think I had a good balance, to be honest. Like, but yeah, I think they used to say it was about $1,000 a month.
Okay.
Budget, but I think now, like I've heard it's somewhere closer to like $1,500 to $2,000 a month. It's like a rough estimate, but I'm probably not a good example, because yeah, we did enjoy ourselves.
You splurged a little bit. What do you think someone could get by with for a bare minimum? Could they do it for $500 a month?
I mean, if you're gonna camp even in towns, or just not do any zeros, then you're just basically paying for food, which would be possible. And like I did meet some people who were on very tight budgets, and you know, yeah, they weren't taking zeros, they were just getting in, you know. Yeah, you could probably if you really, really, really wanted to, you probably could.
I think Desert Jesus only spent $75.
It's because he didn't stop.
That's right, he didn't stop. All right. Hey, the PCT, you know, unlike the Appalachian Trail is called the Green Tunnel. It does vary in some parts of it, but I mean, you're down on the tree line the whole time. But the PCT, I would say, has different personalities. Yeah. Very different sections, different ecosystems. You've got the desert at the beginning, then you've got the Sierras, then you've got Northern California, Oregon, and Washington. And the variety is very different than I would say the AT. Although, you know, I've not hiked the full length of either one of them, so I could be completely wrong. This is just what I've gleaned from talking to people and reading. And so, you know, what was your favorite section of the PCT?
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of variety, but sadly, like we didn't get to do the full Sierra. It was not in good state when we were there, as I'm sure you probably know. But I say I probably had most fun in the desert. I thought I feel like people like don't talk about it enough, but I just thought the desert was just, maybe it's because it's so different for me, but it was spectacular. But I would say, I mean, Washington is like stunning, but it was like brutal because it was starting to get really cold when we were there. I would say all of it, to be honest. I think every single thing, every single day, I was blown away by something. And I mean, like there was times where I would cry. I would be so like, this is the best day of my life, like every single day. But if I had to choose one, I don't know. Yeah, I'll go with the desert because that was just so special.
The desert, and you're not the first person to say that, and I've been surprised every time that comes up because the desert just does not. I haven't experienced like you have. And so I just have this image in my mind that it wouldn't be that fun. But other people have talked about how spectacular it is and how different it is. So maybe I need to keep an open mind and give that a chance.
I think it's special as well because at the start, like it's kind of funny because everyone's new, everyone's learning their gear and like everyone's getting to know each other. It's like class of 2023 and, it's just fun and you're getting your first towns and you're meeting everyone. Everyone's all excited. Like by the time you get to like Oregon, Washington, like, a lot of people are tired and like a lot of people have like dropped out by that stage as well. And you're kind of, that you're trying to get through, you're trying to get to Canada before like it gets snowy. So it gets a bit more, you're doing bigger miles and, you're trying not to like waste as much time. Whereas, the desert, I mean, we had fun the whole way through. Like, it was just a blast.
Now, in the 2,600 miles, any type 2 fun that you ran into out there?
I mean, like to a certain extent, like all of it, because it's like I was saying, it's not comfortable. Like you're never comfortable. But I mean, there's a couple of times, actually, like probably the most I've laughed after something happened. This is terrible, but we got like attacked by Africanized killer bees in California. And this I only found out afterwards what they were. Someone like knew all about them, but basically we were like hiking along. Actually, it was near the Whitewater Preserve bit. So we were hiking along there and it was kind of like, the parts of the trail where you're kind of going along the mountains like that, and then there's a big drop off the other side. And so there's 3 of us and I was ahead and like these 2 bees were like doing something in front of my face and I was like, what is going on? They weren't attacking me, they were just doing this. And later on I found apparently that is what they do when they're signaling to the like swarm to come and attack you. So I'm like, what is happening? And next thing I get swarmed by these bees and they're like going in my hair, they're like all on my face, and I was like, what is going on? And then next one I heard screaming from behind me and I looked around and my friend Jana, who's snake mates, her trail name, she was like, I get attacked. And then she's like, they're in my hair, and she was screaming. So I ran up to like help her and like got the bee out of her hair. It came into my hair, and then I like threw my hat. This is another time when the hat nearly got lost. I threw my hat, I threw my sunglasses, and I sprinted, and both of us were like screaming. And then oh dear, this is terrible. I still laugh so much of this, but our friend Vortex, who like she's like the funniest person in the world, but so we're seeing her. We decide to wait to warn her, so she comes round. So she's in the distance. We're at this side of the mountain, and I'm like Vortex, watch out for the bees. And she's like, what? Angry bees. And she's like, what, these bees? And next thing, there's a video of it somewhere like on my YouTube. It's so funny. She is screaming and running and me and Yana are just like, we're like, run, and we're laughing like it's terrible, but it was so funny. And I was like, if you see my sunglasses, and then I'm like, no, she's not gonna stop. So she caught up with us. Like, strangely enough, like everyone got stung. Like, we were talking to people later on, like at camp, and everyone got stung. I managed to not get stung, but I had to go back then to get my sunglasses. Like, Yana picked up my hat. I had to go back and get the sunglasses. So I had to put on all my like waterproof trousers. Like, I had this much that you could see, and they were aggressive bees. I've never seen anything like it.
Wow, what a story. And I love the fact that you're laughing at the misery of one of your friends out there. That's
Oh, you
fantastic.
would. Yeah, if you saw the video, honestly, I'm still showing people that video. My mom said that she played it like 10 times. She sent it around to her friends. If I can, I'll send you the video because it's just honestly, even Vortex laughs, and it was her that was like, you know, being attacked.
Yeah, we've got to see that for sure. For sure. Now, hey, did you ever find yourself out on the trail thinking, what am I doing out here? This has gotten so bad that I'm not sure that I can go on. Did it ever get to that point?
Do you know what? I have to say, I not once did I think of quitting. And I thought at some stage there's going to come a point where I think about quitting. I never thought of quitting, but I did have probably the worst time of my life, like near Apache Peak. I was camping at Apache Springs, and I got like so cold, and my hands got so cold that they got really, really painful. And I was like just sobbing into my quilt, and ended up, I don't really know what happened, but for weeks, I couldn't even touch my fingers, and my nails went all black and everything. So I don't know if it was like a type of like frostbite or something, but yeah, I could honestly, like, my hands were sore for weeks. And that at that point, I was curled up sobbing, and I was like, this is like week 2. And at that point, I thought the only thing that would get me off trail is the cold. I still didn't think of quitting though, but it was honestly, it was one of the most painful things I've ever experienced in my life, was my hands on that night. It was brutal.
Quilt sobbing in week
Yeah.
2. That's
I felt so bad for the guys. I was like hiking this section with 2 guys, and they were like, are you okay? And I was like, like just saying, I'm okay, like sobbing, like I think they didn't know what to do, like. And then my tent imploded, and it was rough, like like fell apart 3 times in the middle of the night.
So we referenced a couple times the slowest known time for the PCT. Let's talk about logistics. When did you start? When did you finish? How many zeros?
Oh dear. I started April 20th, and so keep in mind that I had to skip like about 600 miles, so I ended on about 2,000 in the end. I finished on the 23rd of September, so I'm not sure how many zeros, but a lot. But I mean, you know, within racing, like, we would kind of do maybe like, you know, each section maybe like 100 mile, then take a day off. And honestly, like, you know, I saw a lot of people, you know, rushing and not taking zeros, and like, I don't know, it's, you know what, it's hike your own hike, it really is. But for me, honestly, some of those experiences, like the one I sent you earlier about the 49er saloon, like, we just had so much fun, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And I said at the start, I had my spreadsheet for making it to Canada, I hike it every mile. And I was like, but that's going to mean leaving this group really and just going on my own. And I just see by the end, I don't care if I wasn't going to make it all the way, I wouldn't change a thing, because that experience was just, it was just the time of my life. So a lot of zeros.
Yeah, and let's talk about the end. I mean, what's going through your mind as you're approaching the northern terminus? And follow-up question to that, when you're finished telling us, what did you learn about yourself going through this experience?
I mean, yeah, at the end, it was bizarre, because I think the strangest thing was opening up the Far Out app and seeing the end. And I was like, wow. And then it was so strange, because I kind of had seen so many videos of this northern terminus, and like how the trees, like, you know, there's the gap, and I saw the gap coming, and I was like, it's you. Yeah, I got so emotional. And then I got even more emotional because I realized there's 2 people who I started the trail with. I hadn't seen them like since Oregon, I think was the last time I'd seen them, since Cascade Locks. And they were at the terminus, and they had no idea that I was coming. I had no idea they were there. And like, I saw them, and I just like cried my eyes out. So it was a lot of emotions, because you kind of like, I didn't want it to finish, but at the same time, it was tough near the end. We had like fires, we had snow. I mean, it was pretty tough going at the end. Yeah, it was a lot of emotions. What was the second question?
What did you learn about yourself having gone through this?
I mean, I learned that I'm pretty tough, a lot tougher than I thought. And honestly, like, I feel like, I didn't go out there, like, find myself really. I was, I'd done a lot of that in previous hikes, but yeah, I suppose I learned, yeah, that I'm pretty stubborn, I think, as well, and honestly, like, I think mentally very, very strong. I think, that's something I learned. Like, I just was able to just get through it, even on the hard days, just like, I didn't really complain too much. And I never thought of quitting, never, even when I was sore, even when I was in pain, even when I was cold, just, yeah, I was very,
even when you were quilt sobbing.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just, honestly, I was just so happy. Like, I think especially because of my experience beforehand of having years of like not being able to do what I wanted to do, I was just so grateful. And that's partly why, like, people ask me, like, how have you adjusted to going home? And like, I just tell them, like, I know a lot of people get post-trail depression, and like, I am sad I missed the trail, but I can't be sad because I'm just so happy and so grateful that I'm gonna get emotional, but like, talking about it, but like, I'm just so grateful to have had that experience, and really grateful of my body for being so strong and getting through it. So I was just very happy out there, still am.
Now, Zippy, one of my final questions to you, are you hiker trash?
I mean, I haven't slept in, have I slept in a pit toilet? No, I haven't slept in a pit toilet, but yeah, I mean, like, like, I look back at photos, like, I went into a brewery in Cascade Locks, and I was like, just caked in dirt, like, absolutely disgusting. So actually, the funny story about hiker trash was, we were like night hiking. This was after being in the Joshua Inn, so it was a bit of a late one, and there was this like big steep bit down that we thought we might be able to find somewhere to camp, and like, guys hiking with Atlas, the tree stumper was his name. He went down, and we were like, is it good? And he calls out and he says, I don't know, there's just a lot of trash. It turned out he genuinely thought it was a lot of trash. It turned out it was a load of cowboy campers, and it just cracked me up so much, because he's like, it's just a lot of trash, and then he paused. Oh no, it's hikers! That's like literal hiker trash, because he thought it was just
literal.
But yeah,
that's fantastic. So we mentioned a couple times your YouTube channel and videos on your YouTube channel. Let's talk about the Ash O'Brien Outdoors YouTube channel. What can people expect to find on there?
Well, at the minute, I just posted my last video of getting to the terminus. Basically, yeah, I documented the whole thing on the trail. It was kind of like a journal, really, for me, but something I really wanted to like share, and that was kind of the heart and the spirit of the PCT. So I kind of did a lot of like documenting my trail family, and it's very honest, like, I talk about when things are hard. Like, I show us, getting like vortex and like saloons, and I think, I'm pleased with how it turned out, because I mean, like, I'm an animator, so I work in like, TV, and like, I like to make things really perfect. And I knew when I made the decision to film and edit on trail rather than doing it after, I knew that it was going to be rough and raw, and honestly, I'm kind of happy with that, because at first I was like, oh, I want to be able to like, export this at the highest quality and do all these effects and all. But in the end, it's like, those voiceovers, like, I did a lot of voiceovers in it, like, they were recorded literally like on trail, and interviewing like people, and like the story unfolded as it happened, and there's Q&As in there, and it's just fun. Like, I've watched them through, like, I'm watching them at the minute, like, for the first time since being off trail, and even though I'm like, I could tweak that audio, tweak that bit, but it's a load of fun. And the last episode had like a lot of flashbacks, and like, yeah, that last episode, I'm pleased with that, because I actually did get to make that on a computer, not on my phone. So that's basically it. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming up about gear and stuff as well, because that's something that I like to hear about. So I'm going to talk a lot about my gear and how it worked out.
What a fantastic resource for people who are considering hiking the PCT. Having, checking out the video and the voiceovers and all of the great information from an animator, professional professional who works in the industry, who has put this together from her experience out on the PCT. So encourage everybody to check that out.
Yeah, it's just a bit of fun. I must say, I think my favorite comment, although the comment got deleted, was someone apparently said, just a load of drunks hiking 10 miles a day. And I wanted to say back, excuse me, a load of drunks hiking 20 miles a day. We did, like some people did say, you won't make it to Canada, or you look like you're more into partying. But, like we got there in the end, like we weren't the fastest, but yeah, we just enjoyed it, So yeah, I think it shows a lot about the truth of what it's like to be out there and with people, and hopefully it gets across. And as well, sorry, I'm waffling on now, but I wanted to show that it doesn't matter where you start. If you think that something like this is unobtainable for you, like honestly, like, yeah, I started from the bottom, and like, just believe in yourself that you can do it, and just go for it.
Nice. Now, what's next for Zippy? What's the next big adventure?
I'm definitely going to do the AT, I think, in 2025. I already started planning that in my head. Like, in the second week, I was like, I love this. I want to do all of them. But I do want to go back and finish the Sierra. But I finished, like, my contract in March 2025. And when I saw that, my contract, I was like, they're basically making me do the AT, because that's a perfect time. So yeah, that's a long-term goal. So, but in the meantime, like, there's some hikes I'll probably do in Europe and the UK, and I want to like do more biking, and I do a bit of bike packing, and yeah. All
right. Well, future Triple Crowner, Ashley O'Brien. Thank you. Is it Ashley or Ash?
It is Ashley, but yeah.
Okay, Ashley. Okay.
Everyone calls me Ash.
Okay. All right. Hey, Ash, you know where we are right now?
Is this the pro tip?
Hiking hacks.
That's right. It's time for Zippy to share some trail wisdom with our listeners to make their next outdoor experience even better. Were you able to hang on to at least one hiking hack that you can share?
I've got two, if I can sneak it in.
Okay, let's hear them.
Okay, well, the first one's a short one, but this is one of the best tips I can ever provide. And it's 3 words: pack out pizza. Honestly, it's the best thing, because at some point you're going to get sick of your trail food. Pizza, when you're in town, order a second pizza, put it in tinfoil, then you have hardly any trash. It is delicious cold, and I think one of the best things about that, you don't have to cook. So the first day back in trail, you can have dinner, you don't have to cook. And honestly, like, yeah, I did that like every time, and every time I was like, I could hardly wait till dinner, because I would have like pizza. So that's my number one tip.
Magical. 3 words: pack out pizza. Nice.
You'll thank yourself for it. And the slightly more wisdom-y one, I would say, like, take people's advice, listen to people's advice, but also, listen to your own wisdom, because at some stage when you're planning for it, you'll probably start to like doubt yourself, and you'll be watching all these videos, and you're like, oh, and you start to forget that, you know what you're doing. Like, if you're planning this, you probably know what you're doing. And for me, the perfect example of that is those down pants, those down booties. People were saying, don't bring it. Solar panel, people were saying, don't bring it. And like, I know me, I know what I need. And in the end, I think, yeah, I knew more what I was talking about than I gave myself credit for, because I was getting psyched out. So that's another thing, like, try not to be too intimidated by watching all these ultralight packing lists. You don't need to have a Z-Packs duplex. Like, you don't need the fanciest, lightest stuff. You can do it. You can do it.
Those are 2 great tips. Thank you so much. So there you have it. We are just about done here. Hope our listeners enjoyed our time with Zippy. We want to thank her for joining us this week. Ash, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they keep track of your latest adventures?
Well, it's Ash O'Brien Outdoors on YouTube and Instagram. That's kind of, where I'm posting things. I've still got a few more videos to do. I've got like a reunion episode coming up, which should be really exciting. With we all met up again in San Diego and made cocktails. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay. Remember to check out Hiker Trash Radio on social media as well. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at hikertrashradio@gmail.com.
Off the beaten path.
Now, unfortunately, Zippy, we can't always be on the trail. And when we're not, we need to find a way to get our adventure fix. So I'm going to ask you to share some outdoor adventure media with our listeners to help them get by. This could be a book, movie, documentary. We call this segment Off the Beaten Path. And I'm already going to stipulate that people should check out Ash O'Brien Outdoors as well as Journeys North. Do you have anything else for us?
I mean, well, like I would always recommend this podcast to people because you learn so much.
Thank you.
Honestly, I've learned, like, yeah, even I was listening to Coldzilla's episode the other day, and like he had some really good practical tips. But yeah, I learned a lot in this podcast. But yeah, Journeys North. I wrote down one. Yeah, I really like the book Unlost by Gail Muller. She hiked the Appalachian Trail and like she overcame some serious obstacles. So for me, it was super inspiring because, like me, she basically started from the bottom and she overcame a lot of adversities to make it on that, and it was a really inspiring story. So if you are someone who maybe feels like you're not capable of doing something like that, that will inspire you, and that inspired me to dream big and make a ridiculous goal like the PCT. And another one, which actually I heard someone else recommend in this podcast, was well, I like bits of the book, some of it I don't agree with, but You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I found that when I was listening to that, I listened to that on trail, and it kind of made me feel like, you know, bits that were hard, I was listening to him and I was like, this isn't hard. So it kind of like, yeah, it was quite inspiring as well.
And that first one was Unlost?
Yeah, Unlost, Gail Muller. Yeah, I just find that a really inspiring story.
All right, we'll have to check that out for sure. Thank you so much for that.
What have we not asked you?
And you know, it's our last segment. Before I let you go here, is there anything that we've missed? What have I not asked you that you're dying to tell us about?
Well, do you know what? If I was listening to a podcast of someone who has filmed on trail, like, I suppose I could maybe mention, like, how I made it, because it's something that I really wanted to know before I went, and I don't know, is that interesting? I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I'm still like trying, like, I'm always testing different methods and learning, but I use the GoPro on trail, and I use a little SD reader for my phone because you can transfer by Bluetooth, but then you're draining two devices. So I used that, and then I edited everything on KineMaster and then put it on YouTube. So that's how I edited, because yeah, I was trying to find, like, how do people do this on trail? And God, it's bloody hard work, I'll tell you that, is editing on trail. Like, I said to people, it's almost like doing 2-3 hikes, is editing and filming on trail. It's a big commitment, but I'm really pleased I did it. Yeah, and that's how I did it. So I might do a video with that at some point, but yeah.
Yeah, hiking the hike is hard enough, but editing on trail and putting stuff out, that's even, it's an added layer of complexity. So thank you for sharing your insight on that.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say.
All right. Hey, we are finished. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Ash. We wish you the very best in your future adventures, and we'll hope you'll consider coming back and sharing some more stories with us sometime.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, and thanks for making the podcast, because it certainly, like, yeah, I learned a lot from it. I was like taking notes, listening before I went to PCT. So yeah, thanks for what you do.
Oh, thank you so much. As we close up, do you have any shout outs to friends and family?
Well, yeah, big shout out for my mom and dad for putting up with me. Like, I was gonna list everyone in my trail family, but it was so big and I'm scared of missing anyone. So yeah, my trail family, trail angels, and just generally everyone in the country you live in. I think they're the friendliest people in the world, and I've traveled a lot. People were so nice to me on trail, off trail, so supportive. yeah, to all the friendly people that helped me on the PCT.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't even care if you're tired from laughing at Vortex getting attacked by killer bees. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.
Oh, classic.